Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. I know it's been a while. It's been a few. It's probably been almost a week since I've been able to do a show. But it's been the main reason is I'm still on my summer schedule at work, so I go into work a lot, quite a bit earlier, and I've uh, I've had a lot of things I've had to do before work. Just been busy with stuff and just various things, mostly music related. I've been trying to have this show coming up with a band that I've never played with, and so I've had to put in mostly, well, really all my free time that I have into trying to get these tunes together. So it's been a lot of work, and I've had other things that I've had to do. So it's been kind of a crunch, and it's been hard to do the videos, finding a time. But here I am. It's a Sunday. It is 10:50. It's a beautiful sunny day so far. Very excited. I'm going to the movies tonight to go see Deadpool and Wolverine. Very, very excited. I've heard mostly really good things. I have been anticipating this movie for a very, very long time. So stay tuned. There'll be a review for that coming up after I see it. And so today's show is on a movie. I went to Bull Moose in Waterville last weekend. I was up there for a show on Saturday, and it got done. It was kind of finished on the earlier side of the day, like late afternoon. So I decided to go to Blue Moose, my favorite place, and I went there. And I used to always go to the Waterville Bull Moose. That was like my place, and I would always go there. And I noticed over the last year, a couple of years, usually when I go there, usually when I always go to Bull Moose, I try to always seek out all kinds of exploitation movies. And so I noticed that their titles were like everything was seemed like it was just getting more and more diminished. They were they had less and less movies in that style. They have an amazing selection anyway, but I wasn't really into buying more quote unquote commercial movies there. I usually don't. I try to like seek out a lot of like real underground movies, and so I noticed their whole selection. It seemed like it was kind of diminishing, and I was like, "What's going on here?" It was really weird, and so I started going to the Bull Moose in Bangor, and they have an amazing selection when it comes to all things exploitation. So I started to go there all the time and buy movies. But since I was up in Waterville for this gig, I was like, well, I'll go in there. And I was kind of blown away by I hadn't been in that shop in quite some time, and I was blown away by the selection of movies they have. They have this entirely new setup in Bull Moose now, Apple Moose, and so they have they have the usual movie selection set up. You have your science fiction, horror. You have your Blu-ray, you have your 4K, you have your DVD section, and they have that usual thing. But the new thing that they have is they have this huge section that's labeled boutique movies or under the boutique label. And I was like, holy shit! And I remember going through those movies, and they had just like I was blown away by the amount of movies that they had and the variety and so many super low budget 70s 80s 60s exploitation movies. I was blown away, and the variety of different styles of movies. They had ninja movies, they had all kinds of action movies, horror movies. They had them all kind of interconnected, or all kind of on display. All these titles, and definitely, about 95% of those films are definitely like in the exploitation world. And the whole boutique thing is funny because it's kind of trendy. It's kind of a hipster thing, I guess. But when I first started hearing that label, as far as movies or the labels, the movies that come out, you have your companies that really push a lot of these movies and release a lot of all of these movies. Like, you have Severin, you have like Blue Underground, um, Mondo Macabra, Arrow, a whole plethora of different labels that put out all of these classic, amazing exploitation movies. And that's gotten, those labels have gotten this like, referred to as being the boutique labels, like, meaning that these are like really, really rare movies. They are, pretty low budget. They're pretty sleazy underground movies, but they're also they're a lot of them have very limited pressings and limited releases, and they some of them are a little bit on the expensive side. A lot of them aren't though, but there's limited copies, and these movies are always sought out by uh, weirdos like me who want to buy these really rare kind of unseen movies, or movies that I grew up watching as a kid that are getting this amazing treatment being released on Blu-ray. And so the boutique thing is all like catered to like the collectors, people who want to buy the movies and build a library on all of these really, underground films. And so I was in heaven. I thought when I went into the shop I was going to be, struggling a little bit to find some good titles, and I thought I was going to be in and out. I was a little bit tired. I had two gigs that day. I was a little bit tired, and I thought I'd be in and out. But when I went in there, I discovered this. I was just blown away, and I ended up being in there for quite a while. And suddenly, I thought I have a couple of choices, but then realizing I had a bazillion choices. So I am definitely in my next trip to Bull Moose. I am definitely going to go there and spend a whole day. I'm really, really excited about doing that. I might try to do that, um, maybe next week or something. But I was just blown away. So one of the movies that I bought that I just thought looked super cool. Again, this is a movie I've never seen before, and I don't even know if I heard about it. It came out right around the time when I was into action movies. It came out, during, kind of at, the heyday of like exploitation movies, and that is Killzone. This movie is totally, totally awesome. I never seen this before. It came out in 1985. This movie is kind of it's very much inspired by Sylvester Stallone's First Blood, which is again a classic movie. This movie very much has that kind of vibe. The premise of this movie is there's a soldier who is suffering like extreme uh, SPD from being in Vietnam, and he is back home, and he is with his he's still part of the military, and the military group or squad that he's with are like they're basically running these kind of drills in the woods in the jungle. And so these are like kind of simulated, run throughs or drills. And so but he is basically insane and goes rogue and really believes that he is going to get killed and and be captured and get captured. So he kind of goes bonkers crazy, and he goes on this rampage and basically tries to kill everyone in his squad and everyone around in that area. And it's great. I mean, it's super awesome. It's brutal as hell. There's all kinds of great violence. It's the epitome. It came out in 1985. It's super low budget. It's pretty gritty. It's kind of low down and nasty. It's totally absurd. It's totally ridiculous, and it's kind of terrible. Um, but it's amazing. I love the packaging. The artwork is just so cool. I mean, it's just iconic, and that's what sold me. There is this company, the MVD company, that basically puts out these movies, a lot of movies from this from the this late 70s, early 80s, mid, you know, throughout the 80s, and I think movies even into the 90s, where they basically reissue a lot of these low budget exploitation movies and package them like they are VHS, which is pretty funny. And that's it's great. But this is a really awesome collection. It's got you got the slipcover and beautiful artwork. There's a lot of great special features on here. There's some really great interviews, and it's great. This movie is so entertaining. I'm a fan. I'm a huge fan of like the action. The action exploitation world. Super fun. A lot of those movies tend to be really gritty and really kind of nasty. Lots of kills. And it's done in this fashion where it's so low budget and it's just great, spectacular. This movie was directed by David A. Poor, um, and it's it's a great film. It was produced by Jack Marino, who went on to kind of become a legend. He kind of became a legend, and Jack Marino kind of became this real iconic figure in this kind of weird little exploitation subgenre, the action subgenre. There's a really awesome interview with him on this Blu-ray, and he was talking. He referenced a lot to Sylvester Stallone's First Blood because this came out a couple of years after, and that movie single-handedly inspired him to like. It was his first movie he was involved in, and it really inspired him to make this kind of um, exploitation movie based on First Blood. So First Blood, of course, it's a classic. I love that movie. I do love that franchise. I actually think it's actually really good. I've done some reviews on some of those movies. Um, and those are, kind of like big Hollywood movies. Sylvester Stallone, big budget, especially at the time. You had some big name actors. And basically, this movie is kind of a parody of that, where it's it doesn't have the budget. It's ultra low budget. It's really, the writing isn't as good, production value isn't as good. Just the movie was done with like virtually no money, and I love that. I love that it just has this really gritty thing about it that just gives it its charm. And at the time, in the '80s, like First Blood was like considered, and it's still, and rightfully so, like considered, an action classic, and it kind of set a standard as far as action movies. But it was like a huge hit commercially, and it really inspired a lot of other filmmakers and a lot of knockoff directors and filmmakers, in the action world. This being a primetime example, in the exploitation world. So you have, a movie or filmmakers that just don't even, can't even come close to having the budget that that movie had, but they kind of rip it off a little bit. But again, it's really inspired by First Blood, but it's actually very, I think it's not a total ripoff. It's inspired. The story and the way the movie plays out is, you know, really quite a bit different than First Blood. There are like some musical cues in the movie that are directly ripped off of First Blood, which is pretty funny. And some of the action, some of the sequences, the aesthetics is very much taken or ripped off from that movie. But I think this movie is really its own thing. It's super entertaining. It's a great movie to watch with like your friends, like if you wanted to hang out and drink beers and watch just a really ridiculous action movie. This is a great one. This is a classic for that. And this movie really continues a trend for me that I've been, where I have been buying a ton of movies that I've never seen before. And that's kind of what I do most of the time now when I go to Bull Moose. Just in general, like I take more chances now when I buy movies. I love discovering new movies for the first time and putting them in my collection. It's just some movies that I've heard about, some movies I haven't. I generally, when I buy movies that I have never heard of before or that I've never seen, it's a lot of the times I have heard about it or I've seen different YouTube people talk about it, very in various to various degrees. So I kind of know about the movie, but a lot of the times also I just go into it cold and I just check it out. One of the things that I look for is when it was released because I mean I love newer movies, but my favorite decades are the 70s and 80s. So if I see a movie that looks really gritty and super cheesy and low budget and it's from those decades, 99% of the time I will buy that movie if I don't see it, if I've never seen it before, and if it's a good price or whatever. But this is awesome. Killzone, 1985. It's the epitome of 80s action movies. Super fun. So thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.